Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, on this episode of Bullet Points, I'm going to show you an opinion piece out of the New York Times. Something's happening. Either hell just froze over, something slipped through the cracks, one flew over the cuckoo's nest, but the New York Times just published an article that is, I quote, "I'm a New York City liberal and I want a gun." Oh, we got to talk about this. Everything is going to be linked in the description box below. I cannot wait to hear from you guys on this one. And on a personal note, it's my birthday today, and we are this close to 400,000 subscribers on the channel. If you guys think we earned that subscription, we would love to have you in the fold. We are driving forward with our rights for the 2A all day, twice a day. And if you could help us get to 400,000 on the actual day of my birth celebration, that would be incredible, and thank you for consideration. All right, we got to get into this, guys, because these opinion pieces, the reason that I find value and the reason that I cover them is it shows you the trend, the underlying thinking. And that is what we have right here. This is a perfect example. All right, so I've already showed you the article, but I'm going to show you the title again. It's right here. I'm a New York City liberal and I want a gun. Okay, I'm not suggesting that the New York Times has gotten based and all of a sudden are all about gun rights, but this speaks to a trend. Listen to the setup, and then I'm going to show you where they go, because while this person still firmly believes in gun control, they're also questioning the idea of the state prohibiting them from owning guns. This is incredibly important because this correlates and stacks on everything that we saw in the previous year with the influx of gun purchases, with 40% of new purchases or purchases were new purchases, like 1 in 5 were minorities or females. All of these things are showing a cultural shift. Let's dive in. Let me show you this. So here's the setup. I lived in New York for a decade without fearing for my personal safety. But in recent months, I've been terrified. In May, I filed for and received a temporary order of protection against a former partner. So it's a safety concern that's driving this line of thinking, which is a lot of people, which explains the influx of gun purchases over the last 2-3 years. But just so I can prove that her bona fides, that she is absolutely liberal, this is what she said in the same article before she starts making the case for gun rights. I support background checks, waiting periods, assault weapons bans, and gun control proposals that make it harder for people to obtain guns. Okay, this is not a conservative from Arkansas, all right? We should strive for a world in which the only people with guns would be responsible citizens trained in firearm safety who purchase their guns legally, store them safely, and use them for hunting or sports shooting, or as a last resort for personal protection. Gun owners in New York should be required to take continued educational courses in order to renew their licenses. Again, I would like to show Exhibit A, liberal policies on guns. All right, so here's where you get into the questioning of the liberal mindset on gun control in New York. And this is across the board. Check this out. This is deeper than top level. I also understand why some of my fellow liberals would like to ban guns outright. But guns are already prevalent among those who don't follow the rules. Yep. Despite strong gun laws in my state and city, illegal trafficking abounds because criminals are going to criminal, and they're starting to notice that. The reality is that in addition to preventing abusers from owning guns, we must empower vulnerable citizens to protect themselves. She's starting to make the connection that in the New York Times, where all the liberals read, that it's not the guns issue, it's the person in hand. Sometimes good people with guns can defend themselves. Occasionally. That's the whole point here. That's where she's getting to. Let me show you. Let me keep on going. For law-abiding New Yorkers, there is currently no swift and easy way to protect yourself in your own home with a handgun. That is an attack on the system of gun control. Even if you have no criminal record, no history of mental illness, and no desire to carry a weapon outside of your home, you must apply for an expensive handgun license. Again, going to another proponent of gun control. Make it too expensive for everyday citizens to own, therefore ostracizing a general population from having guns, using financial means. That disproportionately affects the poorer segment of the population which needs protection the most. Anyway, I continue. New York's onerous gun licensing requirements deter law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves, and while the city officials boast that gun arrests are at a 28-year high and shooting incidents were down last month, murder, rape, robbery, and assault were all on the rise when compared with the same time last year. That speaks to the rise in crime, and people are wanting to defend themselves, and they're asking why an over-bloated federal or state-level government is saying they cannot defend themselves. Because criminals are going to criminal. They're figuring this out. And this is not to say this person is going to become a gun rights advocate, But when they start to question the overbearing policies of a gun control regime, you're making headway. Let's keep going. This part blew my mind. While most murders in the United States involve a gun, most gun deaths in the United States are actually suicides. That's in the New York Times. Now, of course, you know that because we talk about that a lot on this channel. Most of the statistics that they tout as gun violence, 2/3 are suicides nationally. We know that, we've talked about it. But for this to be in the New York Times, which is dispelling a main talking point on the left around gun control, that says something. And preventing gun deaths is much about investing in mental health in our communities as it is about enacting purchase restrictions. And she wrapped this up beautifully. While recently visiting a state with less restrictive gun laws, I found exactly the gun I would like to buy. A small Smith & Wesson M&P Bodyguard, light enough for me to confidently handle and safely store. It sells for about what a handgun license application in New York City cost. As soon as I'm able to legally buy and carry it without too much hassle, I look forward to sleeping soundly. That last piece, again, disproportionately affects the lower end of the economic spectrum. If you're wealthy and you have means, you can expedite and cut the red tape and get a gun to defend yourself or your family. But if you don't have those means and you don't have the ability to pay almost 100% increase for a gun license and a gun, well, you're just out of protection. You better hope that state works in your favor and the police show up on time. It is disproportionately affecting different populations, which is why they got in trouble with the SCOTUS in the first place. And for this to sneak out on the New York Times, mind blown. That's what I have for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments field below, and I will see you tonight at the 9 p.m. segment. I'm Braden. See you later.